Skin in the Game is a book written by Nassim Nicholas Taleb and published in 2018. The book explores the idea that people should have a personal stake in the decisions they make, particularly in the areas of politics, business, and finance. Taleb argues that individuals who have skin in the game are more likely to act in the best interests of others and make better decisions because they bear the consequences of those decisions. Conversely, those who don't have skin in the game, such as bureaucrats, politicians, and executives who receive large bonuses regardless of company performance, are more likely to make reckless decisions that have negative consequences for others. The book covers a wide range of topics, including the importance of decentralization, the dangers of intellectual yet idiotic experts, and the need for antifragility, the ability to benefit from disorder and uncertainty, in systems. Here are some key ideas from Skin in the Game by Nassim Nicholas Taleb that can be applied in real life. 1. Have skin in the game. When making decisions, it's important to have a personal stake in the outcome. This ensures that you have a vested interest in making the best possible decision and taking responsibility for the consequences. Chapter 2 of Skin in the Game is titled The Most Intolerant Wins, The Dominance of the Stubborn Minority. This chapter sets the stage for the book's central idea that people should have skin in the game, and introduces the concept of minority rule. Taleb begins by discussing the idea that in many areas of life, a small group of people with strong beliefs can have a disproportionate impact on the majority. He uses the example of a restaurant where a vegetarian group can force the entire menu to change, even if the majority of customers eat meat. This is because the vegetarians are a stubborn minority who are willing to walk away from the restaurant if their demands are not met, while the meat eaters are a more tolerant majority who are willing to compromise. Taleb argues that this principle applies to many areas of life, including politics, business, and finance. Those with a strong personal stake in the outcome, or skin in the game, are more likely to be stubborn and persistent in their beliefs, and therefore have a disproportionate impact on the majority. Conversely, those without skin in the game are more likely to compromise and be swayed by the opinions of others. Taleb goes on to argue that those without skin in the game are often the ones who make decisions that have negative consequences for others. He gives the example of bankers who receive large bonuses for short-term gains but bear none of the risks of long-term losses. This creates a moral hazard, where bankers are incentivized to take risks that have negative consequences for society as a whole. In contrast, Taleb argues that those with skin in the game are more likely to act in the best interests of others because they bear the consequences of their decisions. He gives the example of a farmer who has to deal with the long-term consequences of his farming practices on the land in his community. 2. Beware of experts. Taleb expands on the idea that people with skin in the game are more reliable decision-makers than experts who do not have skin in the game. Taleb argues that experts who do not have skin in the game, such as academics, journalists, and consultants, are often prone to making predictions and giving advice that is detached from reality. He gives the example of economic forecasters who are often wrong in their predictions, yet face no consequences for their mistakes. According to Taleb, experts who do not have skin in the game often suffer from what he calls the problem of overeducation. They become so immersed in abstract theories and models that they lose touch with reality and are unable to make accurate predictions. Taleb argues that real-world experience is often more valuable than theoretical knowledge. Furthermore, Taleb notes that experts who do not have skin in the game are often insulated from the consequences of their advice. They can make predictions and give advice without facing any personal risk, while those who follow their advice may suffer the consequences. Taleb argues that people should be wary of experts who do not have skin in the game, and instead rely on the wisdom of those who have real-world experience and are directly affected by their decisions. He notes that people with skin in the game are more likely to make accurate predictions and give sound advice because they have a personal stake in the outcome. 3. Decentralized decision-making. Taleb notes that centralized decision-making, such as that found in large organizations or governments, often leads to poor decision-making because those in charge are not directly affected by the consequences of their decisions. He argues that those with skin in the game, such as entrepreneurs and small business owners, are more likely to make good decisions because they have a personal stake in the outcome. Furthermore, Taleb argues that decentralized decision-making allows for more experimentation and innovation. When decision-making is centralized, there is a tendency to stick to the status quo and avoid taking risks. In contrast, when decision-making is decentralized, there is more room for experimentation and new ideas to emerge. Taleb gives the example of the Internet, which was developed through decentralized decision-making by entrepreneurs and innovators. The Internet was not developed by a centralized government agency, but rather through a bottom-up approach that allowed for experimentation and innovation. Finally, Taleb notes that decentralized decision-making can lead to better outcomes because it allows for greater diversity of opinions and perspectives. When decision-making is centralized, there is a tendency for groupthink to take hold, and dissenting voices are silenced. In contrast, decentralized decision-making allows for a greater diversity of opinions to be heard, which can lead to better outcomes. 4. Embrace antifragility. Taleb discusses the concept of antifragility and how it can be embraced to thrive in an unpredictable world. Taleb defines antifragility as the ability to benefit from disorder and uncertainty. Antifragile systems, he argues, are not just resilient to shocks and stressors, but actually become stronger in response to them. Taleb notes that many systems in modern society are fragile, meaning they are vulnerable to shocks and stressors and can easily break down. He argues that in order to thrive in an unpredictable world, individuals and institutions should strive to become antifragile. One way to embrace antifragility, according to Taleb, is to focus on eliminating sources of fragility. This can be done by avoiding complex systems that are vulnerable to unpredictable events, such as the financial system or large bureaucracies. Instead, individuals and institutions should focus on simplicity and decentralization, which can help to reduce fragility and promote antifragility. Another way to embrace antifragility is to engage in via negativa, or the process of eliminating negative elements in order to improve a system. This can be done by removing harmful practices or behaviors, rather than adding new ones. By eliminating sources of harm and fragility, systems can become more antifragile and better able to withstand unpredictable events. Taleb also notes that embracing antifragility requires a willingness to take risks and experiment. In order to become antifragile, individuals and institutions must be willing to embrace uncertainty and learn from failures. This means taking small risks and experimenting with new ideas in order to discover what works and what doesn't. 5. Don't rely on credentials. Taleb argues against relying on credentials and instead suggests that we should look for those who have demonstrated their competence through their actions. Taleb notes that many people today rely on credentials, such as degrees or certifications, as a way to signal their competence. However, he argues that credentials are often a poor indicator of competence because they can be obtained through memorization or conformity rather than true understanding or innovation. In contrast, Taleb suggests that we should look for those who have demonstrated their competence through their actions. This means looking for individuals who have a track record of success in the relevant field, rather than simply relying on their credentials. Furthermore, Taleb argues that those who have skin in the game are more likely to be competent than those who do not. This is because those with skin in the game, such as entrepreneurs or investors, have a personal stake in their success and are therefore more likely to take risks and innovate. Taleb gives the example of successful entrepreneurs, such as Steve Jobs or Mark Zuckerberg, who did not have prestigious degrees or certifications, but demonstrated their competence through their actions and their success in the market. Finally, Taleb notes that relying on credentials can lead to a lack of diversity in opinions and perspectives. This is because those who have obtained the same credentials often think in similar ways and have similar biases. In contrast, looking for those who have demonstrated their competence through their actions can lead to a greater diversity of opinions and perspectives. 6. Avoid debt. Taleb argues that debt can be dangerous and suggests that individuals and institutions should avoid taking on excessive debt. Taleb notes that debt can be a useful tool when used wisely, such as borrowing to invest in a business or education. However, he argues that debt can become dangerous when it is used for consumption, such as using credit cards to buy luxury items or taking out a mortgage for a larger house than one can afford. Furthermore, Taleb notes that debt can lead to fragility. This is because debt requires a regular stream of income to service the debt payments, and if that income stream is disrupted, the debtor can quickly become insolvent. Taleb also notes that debt can be a form of slavery, as it requires the debtor to constantly service the debt and can limit their freedom and options. Finally, Taleb argues that debt has become too normalized in society, with individuals and institutions taking on increasingly large amounts of debt. He notes that this has led to a touristification of debt, where people view debt as a way to maintain a certain standard of living or to finance luxury purchases, rather than as a tool for investment. Instead of relying on debt, Taleb suggests that individuals and institutions should focus on building resilience and antifragility through savings and investment in productive assets. By avoiding excessive debt and focusing on building a strong financial foundation, individuals and institutions can better weather economic shocks and uncertainties. Thank you for watching. We hope you enjoyed the content and found it valuable. Don't forget to subscribe and hit the notification bell so you never miss an upload. We appreciate your support and look forward to bringing you more great videos in the future. See you in the next one.